I appreciate the notion of agency, that we're not bystanders in the world. It's decisions, not conditions, that determine our fate and future. And that fundamental notion of agency, I think, is important more broadly. And I think that goes to some of the issues around, victimization. And I see a lot of that, respectively, on the right, increasingly, even with Trump. Often approaching things from that sort of mindset.
What do you mean? What do you mean for Trump?
I think there's sort of the grievance.
What I saw.
Yeah.
What it looked to me like he was negotiating with a deaf prostitute.
The political pressure that had been building finally snapped. Gavin Newsom didn't just respond, he blew up after Tyrus triggered a moment no one saw coming. What followed was anger, hurried cleanup, and a reaction hot enough to scorch a studio mic. Anyone who thought political drama had peaked learned quickly that this one had a sharper edge than expected and left viewers wondering how it spiraled so fast.
Oh, it's not his words when he speaks.
Yeah.
You have to watch him closely. And some genius decided not to film him any lower than the shoulder.
Yes, did you? Yes.
So what did he do?
You couldn't see the hands.
No, but he sent Morse code.
Yes.
Go back and watch it. Look at the blinking. Blink, look. Meet me at the house. Like, he's blinking. He's sending. I'm getting there. Hey, just so you know, I'm not wearing.
Before we move forward, hit that like button and subscribe, because what happened next didn't simply enter the room. It tore the door off, stomped through carefully planned talking points, and threw the whole setup off balance. One moment, everything followed the usual script of polished remarks and recycled outrage.
Gavin Newsom he just all around sucks.
Yeah.
He's just, you gotta be good at something.
Yeah. You gotta be good at something.
You gotta,
So what is it?
clearly the governor thing ain't his thing.
Yeah.
Telling the truth is tough. So maybe he was gonna be a good comedian, because that's what happens to a lot of people. Acting doesn't work out, then they go into politics, and he's like, hey, I'll be a comedian. Turns out, sucks at that too. So I don't know. Maybe try carpentry. I don't know. But
then Tyrus dropped a comment so sharp it short-circuited California's political weather system live on air. In an instant, Newsom's smooth, managed image stopped carrying him.
I want some of this, then you do some of this, and I'll do some of that back to you, and then we'll do this, and then I'll pay you, and then we'll do it again.
True.
And then she kept saying, no. Okay, how about this? You do this one first, then we do this one, then we give a little back and forth.
Instead, he was pushed against a wave of exposure, public reaction, and scrutiny that went from controlled to volatile in seconds. The surprise wasn't that sensitive information surfaced, that happens daily, but how visibly rattled he became.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. He's still governor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So he could do something about it. That's the most irritating thing, is like, why did anyone say with a follow-up where he's like, the homeless situation is ridiculous? Follow-up question, aren't you governor?
Yeah.
Like, that's the difference. That's the difference between the radical left and President Trump. He'll talk about something as it's...
The real moment was watching a man known for staying in control suddenly lose his hold on the story long enough to reveal genuine irritation. The blow-up wasn't subtle or polished. It was the sort that makes strategists choke on their coffee and refresh their feeds like traders watching a crash. Meanwhile, Tyrus stayed calm, knowing the reaction would amplify itself. The audience wasn't passive, and once they caught the scent, the usual political rebranding trick stopped working. People could finally see the seams. Newsom's response rolled out in stages, almost like levels of a boss fight. Denial disguised as dismissal, defensive explanations stacking up too fast to track, and then the clear flash of irritation when the buttons were pushed hard.
And then, look, he's blinking, and then eventually the camera guy, realizing that he's signaling him, so he gets appalled, leans back, camera comes down, and then we're back to this. I'll do this for you, you do this for me a little. So he's saying whatever he's gonna say. There it is, see? They couldn't hold him back. He's like, I'm not on film. Oh, I'm not, nope. Bring my hands up, bring him up, bring him up, bring him up, bring him up. He's playing with us. Meet me at my house. house, you get mine, I get yours, it'll work out.
What made it accelerate wasn't just the words, it was the speed. Clips spread across platforms instantly. Supporters tried patching the damage. Critics sharpened their arguments. But the internet treated it like entertainment, not analysis. Body language only made it worse. The stiff posture, the tight jaw, the eyes moving a little too quickly. Analysts didn't need inside information. Everything was written across his expression.
His hand gestures matched the words coming out of his mouth.
Right. Yes,
if the president was like, we want peace in the Middle East.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You would be like,
What the
and like,
hell? Yeah.
That's it. That it is. It's the contrast.
yeah, like
It's
Gavin, his hands are aggressive. You know, we've had a lot of theories. One, it was a bad negotiation with a deaf hooker. You know, now he doesn't want to pay for, you know.
Do you have a problem with deaf hookers?
He does, because the deal.
It's always telling when a polished figure is forced out of script mode. Scripts are safe, scripts are rehearsed, but reaction mode is raw, and raw rarely flatters. Tyrus didn't need to escalate. The exposure itself did the work. Years of staged messaging had to improvise under heat. Supporters rushed in, explaining and reframing. Opponents celebrated, stacking clips like trophies. And through it all, Newsom's flare-up kept echoing because each defense only made the original moment feel stronger.
Serve everybody.
99%, no one's crossed. They're standing at the border like, you go. No, that you go. Like, no one wants to go. Newsom goes down there and says, oh, there's a problem. This is what we saw this in New York with when he put, what's his name, that Blasio, the guy you really hate?
Yeah, Bill de Blasio.
He put his wife in charge of the homeless, and there's $50 million still missing?
Yeah.
So this is another one of the left's money schemes where the guy who's in charge is saying, we need help, we need to figure out a way to do this. So they're gonna make a committee. They already have bubonic plague in California. I remember Dr. Drew was going, there's bubonic plague back in California.
That's the harsh rule of modern media. Once an emotional outburst is recorded, every attempt to fix it just reminds people it happened. Politicians spend their careers trying to look unshakable, yet the moments that define them are usually when they crack. While strategists debated next steps and staff drafted crisis notes, the internet kept moving. Memes appeared, slow-motion edits surfaced, screenshots froze his expression for circulation far longer than any official statement.
We need to rethink everything, because the one thing about dementia or getting older, that the real you comes out. There's no more filters, the little Jiminy Cricket in your shoulder that says, don't say that, he died. So now it's just unfiltered. So now we have to go back. I think Corn Pop got a bad rap.
Yes.
Pretty sure Corn Pop's name was Cornelius.
Yes.
And Joe was trying to tell him how cool his hair is when it gets wet.
And then came the deeper questions. Scrutiny brought up old clips, old comments, and old decisions that suddenly felt relevant again. The original moment turned into an entry point to a much broader conversation. What stood out wasn't his next statement, but the shift in tone. Slightly softer, yet still sharp around the edges. Newsom is usually good at staying ahead of a narrative, but when the dynamic flipped, the adjustment looked clumsy, and audiences sensed it immediately. This wasn't staged theater, this was an unplanned collision.
Paying money for that, I'll do it myself. So, you know.
A little bit of bubble.
Could you imagine if you were the sign person for the TV going,
But you know what's interesting about him? I have maintained that Gavin Newsom has the easiest job of all politicians, because California is a beautiful state.
Yeah.
At its baseline, people will stay there for the weather and the scenic elements. So they'll put up with anything, and they'll put up even with a governor who does.
Tyrus didn't have to add anything after the spark. The comparison between his composure and Newsom's frustration created an imbalance viewers could feel. One side steady, the other jittery. Predictably, the aftermath unfolded across trending tags, opinion pieces, and commentary threads. But certain moments stick not because they're big, but because they show something unguarded. This was one of those.
will not bring my kids back to my neighborhood because I don't feel like walking through, as you affectionately call, hobos, drug addicts and pedophiles and criminals who hide there because it's a great place to hide and commit crimes. So he could do something. He doesn't want to do something. He's just saying to see if the American people are stupid enough to fall for his.
Yeah, you know, we used to call Gotta move on.
Strategically, the outburst cost more than it earned. Outrage rarely wins skeptics or reassures undecided viewers. What it does is expose pressure points, and once pressure becomes visible, critics stop focusing on the argument and instead attack the stability behind it. In the days that followed, the messaging shifted subtly. Nothing announced, but clearly adjusted for anyone paying attention. Comparisons flooded in. At the center was a truth political professionals rarely admit. Power hates being questioned unexpectedly. Controlled criticism is fine. Unfiltered exposure feels personal, and personal hits trigger personal reactions. Newsom's eruption wasn't about the content alone. It was about the breach in the barrier he relies on.
No.
No,
He would
because
not do
did
that. He would not do that because that's just straight up honest racism. That's
Yeah.
no. That's
Remember,
some
he
shit
did
you
that
would
with-
say-
he did that
He
about
would do it
India.
in a way where he would tell a story about the founding fathers and how they built this country so when immigrants could come from India and build 7-Elevens
Yeah, so that's what he would do.
and hand him Slurpees in the summertime.
Yes.
Overpriced, of course. That's how he'll do it. And he'll say, and then he'll tell Vivek.
Over time, the political machine will absorb the moment. It always does, but the short-term impact was unmistakable. The tone changed, the posture shifted, and confidence took a visible hit. For viewers, the real takeaway wasn't who was right, but who looked shaken. In public perception, being rattled often lands worse than being wrong. Even weeks later, the moment will live on in clips, jokes, and references because people remember the first crack in composure more than any statement that comes after.
Lying, and I can't do that. Well, since you can't lie, what tequila were you nursing while the Pacific Palisades burned? And what was it like banging your campaign manager's wife? Of course, he's just waiting for us to forget that his state looks like an overturned porta potty.
So what their problem is not that what he says is that anyone from any walk of life understands his message.
And that's scary.
And that is
Inside the political system, the lesson will be quietly noted. Exposure doesn't have to be loud. It only needs to provoke the right reaction, and this one did. It showed that the pressure was real, and the line between crafted public image and uncontrolled reality is thinner than many want to admit. Politics runs on performance, yet the scenes that carry the most weight are always the unscripted ones.
then look at the audience and be like, what?
Yeah.
What did I say here? No one likes him in his family. Because at some point, if you had any love from anybody, they'd be enough. If he was a boxer, you hug him, you put the towel over his head and be like, we're going home, man.
Yeah.
We're going home. We're done here. But
Yeah.
he couldn't even read LL.
Yeah.
Can I add something very quickly here? Obviously, Newsom is jockeying for presidential position because he has agreed to debate Ron DeSantis on this network.
Yes.
Every future moment of calm will be measured against that flash of irritation. Every polished statement will sit beside that memory like a crack under fresh paint. The audience will move to the next story, but memory has its own logic. It remembers moments, not talking points. That contrast between the image meant to dominate and the reaction that slipped through will linger. Long after headlines shift, the clip will resurface whenever pressure meets power again, because that's the real aftermath. A quiet reminder that no matter how much control someone builds, one unexpected spark can still knock it loose. For more unfiltered breakdowns and daily political shockwaves, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on all notifications right here on 𝐃𝐽𝐬𝐿 Reports. Don't just watch the news, stay ahead of it with us.